Powered by the Montana Television Network. This is the 10 o'clock news on Q2, Montana's news leader.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Russ Riesinger. Janelle's off tonight. Robert Mueller giving his long-awaited testimony, and reaction is predictably mixed. The former special counsel testifying before two House committees about Russian interference in the election and whether President Trump obstructed justice. When it was all over, President Trump reacted by calling it a great day for Republicans and for himself personally. Well, Democratic leaders say they hope the American people were really listening when Mueller testified he did not clear the president of wrongdoing. Nicole Killian is on Capitol Hill with the latest.
President Trump took a victory lap Wednesday after Robert Mueller's testimony before two congressional committees.
This was one of the worst performances in the history of our country.
The 74-year-old former special counsel primarily kept his testimony confined to his 448-page report, but Democrats tried to get him to set the record straight.
The president has repeatedly claimed that your report found there was no obstruction and that it completely and totally exonerated him. But that is not what your report said, is it?
Correct. It is not what the report said.
And what about total exoneration? Did you actually totally exonerate the president?
No.
Under Department of Justice policy, the president could be prosecuted for obstruction of justice crimes after he leaves office, is correct?
True.
Some Republicans accused Mueller and his team of bias.
You hired a bunch of people that did not like the president.
And you must be aware by now that 6 of your lawyers donated $12,000 directly to Hillary Clinton.
I have been in this business for almost 25 years. And in those 25 years, I have not had occasion once to ask somebody about their political affiliation.
Mueller passed on some questions or asked for them to be repeated, and at times he seemed to struggle to keep up.
That went a little fast for me.
House Republicans say Mueller's testimony was nothing new and it's time to move on.
This should be the end of the chapter of this book that we put America through.
But Democrats are still wrestling with whether to pursue impeachment of the president.
We want to have the strongest possible case to make a decision as to what path we will go down.
House Speaker Nancy Pelosi says Democrats are working through the courts to try to get the White House to cooperate with their ongoing investigations. Nicole Killian, CBS News, Capitol Hill.
Well, House Judiciary Committee Chairman Gerald Nadler says his panel will file lawsuits this week to obtain more information about the Mueller report and to enforce a subpoena against former White House counsel Donald McGahn. Statewide missing endangered persons advisory has been issued tonight for a man last seen near Lame Deer. Evander Whitedirt is 25 years old, but authorities say he has mental health disabilities that cause him to function at the level of an 11-year-old child and could possibly be combative. There is concern he could be endangered. If you have any information, you're asked to please call the BIA Northern Cheyenne Law Enforcement at 406-477-6289. New details surrounding a massive sexual abuse case involving the former Miles City athletic trainer accused of decades of sexual assault. As the civil case continues to move forward, federal prosecutors are recommending a sentence of 15 years for James Jensen for charges of coercion. The 79-year-old Jensen is currently being housed at the prison in Shelby. He served as the trainer for Custer County High School from 1970 to 1998, where he developed the program as a way to sexually assault hundreds of male student athletes. Federal prosecutors say the level of Jensen's offense could qualify him for up to 8 years in prison. However, due to the factors of the case, prosecutors believe a maximum sentence of 15 years is appropriate, with a 3-year supervised release. More money is coming in for a landing at Billings Logan International Airport. Today, more than $3 million was awarded through an airline improvement grant offered by the FAA. This money will help the airport reconstruct its runway. In a statement, Billings Direction of Aviation and Transit, Kevin Plone, says this money will help keep the airport's infrastructure plans moving along. This joins another $1 million granted to the airport a little earlier this month. And crews are on the scene of a fire near Bannock. It was a lightning spark fire. Take a look here. The 150-acre fire started Tuesday after a storm rolled through that area. As of today, it's about 20% contained now. They've got 60 personnel fighting the blaze, and crews were successful tonight establishing a containment line along the northern edge to try and slow the fire's progress. They're also mopping up hot spots within the interior of the fire. The biggest concern for firefighters is the chance for some gusty winds. It could just add a little more fuel to that fire. And turning to our weather now, Bob, we're seeing some more storms roll through the Q2 viewing area tonight.
It was a dark and stormy night. Well, for some, not for everybody. Well, let me show you what's happening. Go to the Doppler radar right now. We had some big storms kind of move out of the Beartooth foothills, and then all of a sudden they just kind of did that 7-10 split they seem to do, half to the north, half to the south. And now you can see those storms as they're making their way towards Miles City seem to be losing their steam. We don't have as much hail. We did have some reports of nickel and dime size hail coming out of these storms tonight. But let me show you this. We still have this to talk about, that we just canceled the red flag warning for parts of the northeastern corner of the state, but we still have a red flag warning through tomorrow night at 9 p.m. for most of western Montana. Once again, strong winds and also low humidity could cause wildfires to burn out of control in a hurry there. So it's going to be an interesting night there. And for us, it looks like things are finally starting to die down a little bit. And then after that, things really dry up for a few days. We'll talk about that coming up in a few more minutes.
All right, thank you, Bob. If you were driving near the busy intersection of King Avenue and 24th Street today, you may have noticed a small group of protesters with a unique message. The group of mostly men were here protesting circumcision. They're part of a group called the Bloodstained Men, who are on a 20-day protest tour through Montana, Wyoming, Colorado, Idaho, and Utah. They argue that circumcision is a painful form of genital mutilation that's forced upon unconsenting infants. Protesters say the practice is medically unnecessary and should be stopped.
Human rights are for everyone, no matter what your parents believe. Our position is that everyone has a right to their own body, regardless of what their parents believe. This is not medicine. This is torture. It belongs nowhere in American hospitals.
Well, according to the Mayo Clinic, infant circumcision has dropped from 83% in the 1960s in the U.S. to 77% in 2010. Officials at Yellowstone National Park say they're taking steps to protect visitors after a 9-year-old child was rushed and thrown through the air by a bison on Monday. That child was treated and released at a park clinic, but officials are not able to disclose her injuries, aside from saying she was not seriously hurt. Since the incident, rangers who work at Old Faithful are now patrolling walkways where bison are present.
But the other reality is that this is Yellowstone National Park and animals are wild, and so they are free to move wherever they like. But I do know that park rangers will be watching that area closely given the most recent incident.
Worthen says a total of 50 people were within 5 to 10 feet from that bison just before the attack. The park advises people to stay at least 75 feet from bison at all times. Well, the last couple of weeks, wildlife has been seen in places you might not expect in our area. The latest was a black bear seen on the southern edge of Billings. Bears and mountain lions are looking for food, and the simple solution is not to leave food where animals can smell it and find it. That black bear was spotted this week in the Blue Creek area. This is some video from Norm's Island. Now, Bob Gibson with FWP says it's natural to see wildlife in this area, but he says to keep garbage cans, barbecue grills, pet food, livestock food as well in a building.
It's easy food, garbage, sure, that's good. They like that. They come back as long as there's garbage. So we want people to leave a clean environment around their homes and businesses and vehicles. And when they do that, the bear comes, there's nothing to eat. They go find something to eat someplace else. And if they don't find it at the neighbor's house, they keep on moving. And that's really what we want the bears to do.
Gibson says it's mainly bears that get attracted to some of these possible foods, and mountain lions are much more selective in looking for animals to eat. And he also says keeping food inside is as important in Billings as it is in more rural areas. And speaking of bears, check out this one captured on video in Glacier National Park, where there's still enough snow left to do a little sledding. Not sure if it was actually his intention. As you can see, the little guy having a tough time attempting over and over again to regain his balance as he does a little slip and slide down the slope. Cool way to spend the hot day. Well, coming up on tonight's 10 o'clock news, it's the food your food eats. Tonight, we're going to look at why that matters so much to Montana ranchers. Plus, this camp is giving students an out-of-this-world experience. We're going to check that out. And in sports, we turn Scott and Casey loose on the fairways for a look at golf's latest trend.
You're watching MTN News with Janelle Slade and Russ Riesinger. Storm Tracker weather with Bob McGuire. And sports with Scott Breen. This is the 10 o'clock news on Q2, Montana's news leader.